They might have survived relegation by the skin of their teeth in real life, but Everton are a club that certainly still need a rebuild. They should be doing far more than just staying up at the bottom of the Premier League. So today we'll be taking charge of that job, becoming manager of Everton in the space of 5 years, trying to rebuild the club to glory. We'll only be focusing in on the transfers as Everton boss, but there's plenty of work to be done here at the club to restore some glory. Now, this is a team that have plenty of top division titles in their past, 9 in total top division wins in England. Add on to that 5 FA Cups, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup. This is a club that has a lot of history and they're one of the oldest sides in the Premier League. Now, they've got decent facilities that still need a bit of work, but they have a big loyal fan base and one that will be wanting far more than just staying up. Their squad's an interesting one. There's a few key players in there that look really good in the world of FM, but a lot of these players are not great at all, are past their best, are Premier League relegation quality players at most, some of them, and a lot of their contracts are expiring very soon. You can see that by the ones that are all at the top here. All of these guys on heavy wages whose contracts are expiring at the end of the season, and that is a big issue at Everton. Their recruitment over recent years has been really poor, money that hasn't been spent very well at all, and we'll be trying to fix that. But before we get started, I'm going to ask you guys to do me a huge favour. It only takes a few seconds and it's free to do, but if you could just go down and hit that like button, it will really help with the video's performance. In terms of the numbers we get on this channel, the Sunderland video that we did last week did amazing, and that was thanks to your guys' support. So if we can keep it up and you guys keep smashing that like button, I'd really appreciate it. On top of that, if you're in this percentage of people that haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you click that button. It's free to do and you won't miss out on any of the rebuilds. If only like 20% of the people that aren't subscribed click that subscribe button, we'd have a huge jump in subscriber numbers, like plus 1,000, and get very close to our 20,000 goal that we've got. So thank you to anyone who does that. Comment down below what team you'd like to be seen rebuilt next. I'm taking all of your guys' suggestions, and if you want to check out a Football Manager Discord where you can ask any questions that you want about Football Manager or just have a nice time showing off your save, you can find that in the description also. With that being said, let's kick off this rebuild. Now, the staff situation at the club needs a lot of work. It's something that I don't usually focus on too much. You can see a lot of our staff aren't up to the standard that other clubs are in the Premier League, and this is a club that's slowly been failing. Now, transfer-wise, we apparently have a budget of 30 million and 75,000, but of course we're at the start of 2022, and this is a season that's just been completed in real life, so I'm not going to make any changes to the team. We're just going to forward ahead for one season, see how we get on, and then really start our rebuild. But we have got some money there, and the finances themselves look pretty strong with about 100 million in the bank balance. But if we go to debts and loans, this is a club that has huge debt that we want to try and at least start getting rid of during this rebuild. But it's going to be hard to do when we don't really have that many sellable assets. But first, like I said, let's simulate the first year and take it from there. And it's actually been a pretty good season for us. We finished 12th, which is far better than how Everton performed in real life, but I haven't made any changes here. Realistically, it's because Calvert-Lewin is pretty good in Football Manager, and with his goals, he's managed to keep our side up here mid-table on 48 points, enough to stay up and enough to build off. Either way though, we've stayed up in the Prem like Everton have in real life, and we can build on from there, but that's not too bad. 48 points, -3 goal difference, far away from the relegation zone, but far away from Brentford in 11th. 12th place is about right for the points that we've got. The FA Cup might be classed as a good thing. We got to the semi-final, although Everton fans will be very disappointed to see that we lost to Liverpool. I imagine they prefer just to have got knocked out in the 3rd round than have got this far and get knocked out by their rivals. And then Carabao Cup, 2nd round exit to Aston Villa. But let's have a look at some of our best performers. This is the tactic that we ran with this year. We went for a narrow tactic. I just didn't think there was that much wide talent at the club. We retrained Dwight McNeil to be a shadow striker. If I was to pick our best team currently, it would apparently look something like this, but of course that's got Moise Keane and Dele Alli in, who weren't at the club this year, so that would have been the likes of Garner and McNeil in those kind of positions. But you can see a lot of our talent does come through the middle. Onana is a very special player. Patterson is someone that's got a lot of potential, and despite a big injury this year, we'll be hoping he can be a solid right back for us. I believe Branthwaite wasn't at the club either. He was out on loan, but we've got a few decent players down the middle. But of course, the man that kept us up was Calvert-Lewin with 19 goals in 33 appearances. That was all we needed to stay up. Mopai as well, getting 5 goals in 16 substitute appearances. Tom Davies doing well as James Garner, Dwight McNeil and Amadou Onana there. They were our best players this season. McNeil did get 15 goals, so he certainly contributed to our side's success, and it managed to to keep us up in the Premier League, and now we can really get started on our rebuild. I should note though, of those players whose contracts are running out soon, we're letting a lot of them go. Connor Cody is going back to Wolves after his loan. Lonergan here isn't being kept on, nor is Begovic, Townsend, Tom Davis, Vinagre, Coleman, or Yerry Mina. All of these people I'm letting go. A lot of them I just don't think are of the right quality anymore. A lot of them on high wages as well. Tom Davis, the only one that I thought about keeping, seeing as he's homegrown and he had a good season, but I thought, you know what, we're going to get rid of him and we'll sign some players to replace him. So now that we've stayed up in the Prem, let's make some transfers. I don't know whether this is a mandatory clause and it happens every time, but just to let you know anyway, Moise Kean has made his deal to Juventus permanent, 24 million. The loan has expired and now he's a permanent player at Juve, and we take 24 million into the club. We got about 50 million pounds in our transfer budget this year, so we've had to be smart with our signings to improve a lot of positions that needed to be improved, as well as filling in for those players whose contracts had expired at the club. And one player that we've picked up is Cole Palmer from Man City on a loan deal, paying 1.7 million pounds for him for the season. I think he could be a good shadow striker behind our two forward players, and I feel like on loan he's a player with a lot of promise that can help us right now. Go back to Manchester City and we'll call it a day. Just give us a year of his time. Clearly a very talented player and someone that we hope can help us this year. To fill out our squad, as much as we did look for quality, we did have to focus on quantity as well. So we couldn't splash 50 million pounds on a player. We had to spread the money out quite evenly, and another player that we picked up was Felix Metscher. He is a player from Wolfsburg, a German international who was formerly of Manchester City. We paid 6.75 million pounds for him, a player that can play central midfield or in that forward shadow striker position. 22 years of age, 6'2", valued at about 20 million pounds. Good attributes all around and comes in as a nice squad player to help fill out the depth in that midfield. We then headed over to Turkey to Galatasaray to sign Danish 24-year-old central defender Victor Nelson. Now he comes in, as you can see here, as one of our best in that position. A consistent performer, valued at about 20 million, a leader at the back who positions himself well, is concentrated and does really well in the defensive side of the game, as well as being a decent ball player. 6'1", so maybe not the tallest, but he's got a lot going for him. A full international for Denmark. 10 million pounds is what we paid for him after a good year out at Galatasaray. I'm happy to have him on board. He comes in as a sure start at the back and will hopefully solidify that defence. And we signed 3 more players after that, and we focused in on signing players from the Championship to help us out, signing the best players from the second division to hopefully take that step up into the first division with us. And one of the players we went for is Victor Gyökeres, who missed out on promotion through the playoffs with Coventry in real life, but he was one of their best players this year, arguably one of the best players in the Championship this year. The Swedish striker has been scoring goals as well for them in the Football Manager world with 16 last season. We paid 15 million pounds for him. He's a strong physical striker, 6'2". He's also pretty quick and handy in the air as well. What I love about him is we have a pressing forward in our tactic, and Gyökeres here has 19 for his work rate, so he's going to be bombing up and down, chasing down defenders, using his strength to knock them off the ball and hopefully creating chances. Him and Calvert-Lewin, I think together could be very dangerous, and we're very happy to have him on our side. We then went to Sheffield United and took one of their best players, the Senegalese 23-year-old Iliman Ndiaye. Now he is a supremely talented player that I think will easily take the step up into the Premier League. Again, another one that can play behind the striker, up front as well potentially. He's got a lot going for him, and if we do end up playing with wide players, he can also fill in there. Good physically, mentally and technically. Only a 1 for leadership though. Don't know what happened there to him, but he is a very talented player, someone with some good player traits as well, and I think he's someone that should be able to adjust quite nicely to the Premier League standard. Hopefully he steps up well, but if not, we haven't had to pay too much for these Championship players. He cost us £11 million, and I think that's good business. He's valued at more than that now, and if anything else, he can just be a squad player that fills in for the next few years. And finally, we went to Peterborough in League One and signed Ronnie Edwards, who he then loaned back out to the club. They've been promoted to the Championship now, and hopefully he'll have a good season out there. A very talented young English centre-back. He's got a lot of potential too. Whether anything comes from him, who knows, but we're definitely keeping an eye on him, and hopefully he could be a star for us in a few years year's time once he's developed a little bit. And with those signings, this is apparently how our best 11 will now look. Pickford in goal with Patterson at right back, Mikolenko at left back with Branthwaite and Nelson as our two defenders. Onana playing just in front of them with Doucouré and Idrissa Gueye. We've got Dwight McNeil, Gyökeres and then Calvert-Lewin. But we've got plenty more talent on the bench now. I think a lot of squad players who could easily come in and fight for those positions and give us some competition. Whether it will go that well though, who knows? Now we can simulate our first year as Everton manager. Can we have a season where this side isn't even considered to be in a relegation battle? Let's cross our fingers. And I think I'm quite lucky to still be in a job, because whatever we've done here hasn't quite worked, because we've ended up slipping over 10 points less than what we got last year into 16th place. Now, I feel like it was a more competitive Premier League this year, but the only reason we really stayed up was that there were 3 teams far worse than us in Southampton, Watford and West Brom, and neither of those clubs got over 30 points. So we were still quite a way away from relegation, but it just wasn't a good season at all. 23 losses, only 10 wins, 35 points. The club themselves are okay with us right now, but they wanted us to finish in mid-table. We've had a few dynamics issues and there's a lot that we need to sort there. But I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we had a lot of players in this squad who just weren't going to get any game time, but were kicking up a fuss because they weren't playing, which lowered the squad morale. So now is a time for a real clear out. Thankfully, all of these players here, from Dele Alli to Damari Gray to Andre Gomes, Doucouré, Gueye, we're letting all of these go. The old heads that are on loads of wages expecting to play, we're going to let them all go at the end of their contract. I don't see us extending any of these deals. Maybe we will with some of them, but I'm not too sure. I feel like most of these guys are going to go from next year, and then we'll have a new crop of players to work with. But it really has been a poor season, not good enough for us. But if we do look at our best performers, we can again thank our stars for having Calvert-Lewin, the only person that's really performed well all season. Pickford's done okay, as has Onana, Iwobi as well, and Iliman and Dye, who didn't play that much actually. Gyökeres only contributed to 4 goals, so that experiment hasn't quite worked, and I feel like we might need to change our recruitment plan a little bit. Instead of focusing on these players who could potentially be good and make the step up to the Premier League, we might have to just get some Premier League proven talent to try and drag us back up into that mid-table position. So there's a lot of work to do in season 3, but let's see if we can make the right transfers to take Everton away from that relegation zone once and for all. 3 sales to quickly tell you about. None of these were for huge fees, but I should just let you know about them anyway. Michael Keane, we've let him go to Crystal Palace for £450,000. Hasn't played much for us, and we decided to let him go. Abdoulaye Doucouré's contract was up, so we decided, you know what, we'll just offer him out in case we can get some money, because he is still quite talented, and he's gone to Wolves for £550,000. Still a player that has a lot of talent, but wasn't starting as much for us anymore. And I feel like it's a good time to move him on and get his wages off the books. And finally, Neil Maupay has gone to Nottingham Forest. He's played for loads of teams in England now. Everton, Brighton, Brentford, and now Forest. £2 million for him. Didn't play much last year, so we'll take the cash. I know it's a big loss from Everton from paying 15 mil for him, but I think that was bad business to sign him anyway. The guy couldn't score at Brighton. He's not going to be able to score at Everton, so he sold him on and made some cash. Now for the fun part, the incomings, and I think we've got an absolute bargain of a deal here. We've signed former wonder kid Hungarian midfielder Dominik Szoboszlai from RB Leipzig for a small fee of only 15 million. I can only assume his contract was getting towards its end date. We've actually paid less for him than they paid for him from Salzburg originally. After a very good season as well, I think this is a great deal. Someone that really enhances our midfield options. He's a top player for us, plenty of ability, and I feel like he could go right to the very top in terms of being one of the stars of the Premier League. As good as Branthwaite looked, I felt like we needed a better partner for Victor Nelson in defence. We've gone for a more experienced head. We've signed Rodrigo Becao, a Brazilian 6'3", 28-year-old centre-back from the Serie A, from Udinese, where he's played plenty of football. He's had plenty of experience, and we'll be hoping that will really help us in terms of shoring up the defence. You know what the Italian Football League is like. It's all about defending, so he is a real epitome of that, with 15 heading, 15 marking, 16 tackling. With his technique and vision, he's never going to be the world's best passer, but that's not what we want him to do. He is going to be our solid rock to build around in the defence. He's got a few years left in his prime just yet, and I feel like he is going to be a great great addition to our defence. And I felt like Mykolenko needed some competition at left back, some real quality there, and we have signed Rangers Turkish left back Rıdvan Yılmaz for £16.75 million after 2 very good seasons for them. Bear in mind though, he's playing for one of the top 2 clubs in Scotland, and it's pretty easy to look good in most of the games over there in the FM world, but I still think he's a player that has a lot of talent. Even just on paper, he's got what he needs. He's quick, he works hard, he's got good technique, passing ability, crossing ability, he can dribble as well. He could actually play on the wing if he wanted, but we'll be using him as a wing back on the support duty. He can put a tackle in, he can mark. This guy seems like the real deal at fullback. We're very happy to have him on board, and our best 11 now looks like this. Pickford stays in goal, but now with Patterson, it's Nelson, Beckow, and also Yilmaz in the defence. It's Onana, Szoboszlai, Iwobi, Cole Palmer, who won't be here next season. His loan is just about to expire, Calvert-Lewin, and Dwight McNeil. Plenty of good players on the bench as well, and a lot of players whose contracts are going to be expiring very soon and won't be with us next year. I feel like we've built a strong side here for season 3, and really do hope we won't be in the relegation zone yet again. If not, I feel like Everton should probably sack me at this point. But there'll be no need to, because we've actually had a very good year. We finished in 10th, the top half of the table. We've finally done it, and we have 57 points, 1 goal difference, so we haven't got less than 0 for once, and we won more games than we lost. A great season for us, only 1 point away from finishing above Leeds in 9th, but it's been a really strong year here at Everton. It's been our best so far, and it's something that we can really build off. A lot of players contributing now instead of us relying solely on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If we go and take a look at our best performers this year, you can see the squad is a lot smaller than it used to be, but Calvert-Lewin was one of them, as was Pickford, Szoboszlai, James Garner as well, playing a lot of football for us and doing well. Iwobi, Onana, Yilmaz. This is a team that's really starting to come together and play well. If we look at our best 11 after the season's over, this is apparently what it would be. Nice to see that Garner's now getting in there, and the Metra as well, still proving to be a useful option. Getting 10 goals this year is very good, and Dye as well, getting 9 goals for us. Gyökeres still hasn't quite worked for him. Starting to think it might be time to move him on after his performances and look for a better partner up there than McNeil for Calvert-Lewin. But we'll see what goes on the transfer front. Very happy with this so far. Season 3 is down. In terms of the staff situation, you can see it's getting much better than before, and in terms of the facilities as well, we've tried to improve them. The board don't seem to really want to because of our financial situation. If we do have a look at the debts, starting to tick down a little bit. Still plenty in there, mind you. Not something that I'd be able to pay out of my pocket, £700 million, but it was at 800 earlier, so I feel like we're starting to knock that down. We've got £50 million to spend and some wage budget also. Let's see if we can really take this side to another level, and potentially I guess we got to aim for a European place next. I feel like that's the next place to push. Hopefully get ourselves into that top 8, top 7 spot, and maybe Conference League, Europa League, something like that could be a great end to this rebuild. But 2 seasons left to go. Let's see what we can do. Don't forget, if you are enjoying this video, to quickly hit that like button for me and subscribe if you haven't already. But let's continue. Season 4's transfers didn't go too crazy this year, just went for a bit of extra quality, a bit of extra depth, and the first player that we picked up was Sergio Roberto. We needed a backup right back. Roberto was available as a free agent. His contract now up after playing a year at Shakhtar, and he's been playing really well for 3 years still, so clearly a very talented player. His physicals are starting to decline, but you know what? As a nice older head to have in the team to help mentor Patterson at right back, I don't think there's many better that you could get than Roberto. Might be injured a few times this season. A consistent performer who can play a bunch of positions. We're happy to have him on board, only here for a year or so, but Roberto is in for free. And then our striker search took a bit of a turn. I mentioned Gyökeres I don't think was up to it to be the long-term strike partner of Calvert-Lewin, and we came across this guy who looked really good in terms of his attributes, and I didn't know his name. He was called Sergio Camelo, so I've had a look at who he is, and he was playing for Atletico Madrid's B team, got 3 appearances for Atletico Madrid off the bench last year, but has only really been at a B team level. He was on loan at one point in the 2nd division of Spain, did well, then went to one of the relegation sides in Vallecano in the 1st division and didn't score that many. So he's a real, mystical prospect, whether he'll do well or not. But he's got a lot going for him. 24 years of age, still plenty of time to get better. A good finisher, he's fairly quick, fairly strong, good natural fitness, works fairly hard. I mean, he's not the final product, but his star rating looks pretty good, as much as we shouldn't really judge that, and he does come in as our best striker outside of Calvert-Lewin, so maybe together they could form a good partnership. We'll keep our eye on him, a real bargain at 3.9 million if it works, or we'll forget he existed and imagine this never happened. And we decided to add a bit of extra quality to the midfield here. We've got the likes of Onana and Szoboszlai, who are real quality players, but I felt like we were lacking a real star in that attacking midfield position. As good as Amecha is, we have gone for Lazar Samardzic, a German 23-year-old who we've signed from Udinese for £35.5 million. We signed Becao from them last year, now Samardzic. They're basically raiding our bank account, but this man is technically very gifted. Great first touch, long shots, dribbling, passing and technique. Really good attributes outside of that as well. We're very happy to have him on our side, and he's got a few years to get better. Valued at around £50 million already. He comes in as one of the most talented players in our whole team. And now if we look at our best 11 for season 4, only one more transfer window to go after this. Our team is looking very strong now, with Pickford in goal, Patterson at right back, who was wanted by Barcelona at one point but now is wanted by Norwich. A slight fall from grace there. We've got Nelson, Becao, Yilmaz, Onana, Szoboszlai, James Garner, Samardzic, Calvert-Lewin and Camelo. Hopefully this 11 here can really help us. We've got a good set of squad players on the bench too. This is a team that I really think could push for a European place, particularly that starting 11 has a lot going for it. They're starting to learn the tactic really well too, so I feel like the time is coming for this team to push on. Let's see how we can do in season 4, the penultimate season of our Everton rebuild. And it's been another brilliant year. Did we get many points more than last season? No, not really, but we finished 2 places higher in 8th place, getting a Conference League spot, so we'll be playing European football in our last season here as Everton manager. We were quite lucky, also unlucky in the same way, because Aston Villa were only 4 goals behind us and could have overtaken us on 59 points, but also we could have been in the Europa League if we'd scored 3 more goals, because Tottenham have finished as well on 59 points but with a 14 goal difference. So quite unfortunate in that sense we couldn't get that 7th place spot, but we're starting to disrupt the top teams, the big 6 plus Newcastle basically. We're right up there with those teams after a good season, far away from the relegation zone. Our side has done really well this year. Cup competitions are still a no-go. We're not looking very good in them, and it looks like it might be a trophyless rebuild, but at least we've got Everton into European football, which will hopefully help the club both short-term and long-term. If we look at our best performers, Pickford and Calvert-Lewin are still up there. Calvert-Lewin has been exceptional in this rebuild and has started to score tons of goals now that he's with a very good partner in Camelo. And speaking of Camelo, 20 goals in 43 appearances. He was the difference this year. Him coming into the team as a really good strike partner for Calvert-Lewin was great to see. Still only capped for the under-21 side of Spain, 25 years of age, but he looks really good. I don't know how I haven't came across him before. Such a cheap fee as well, 19 goals in 38 Premier League appearances. Brilliant stuff from Camelo. Very happy to have signed him. And it's been a great season. Even some of our worst performers are still having good years, which is good to see. But we've got one more year to go. One more year to really go for it. Maybe push for the Conference League. Also maybe push into a Champions League spot. It'll be hard work playing both competitions with a squad that isn't really filled out in terms of its depth too much yet. But we're going to go for it anyway. One more season of transfers. Can we make it a season of glory for Everton? We started off by selling a player that's been with us since the start. Dwight McNeil has gone to Brighton at the age of 26 for £20 million. Basically what we paid for him. He was starting to get less game time recently. Only 5 starts, as you can see. 20 sub appearances in the Prem, and just wasn't really up to the level anymore that we wanted him to be. He'll be a great player for Brighton, but we wanted the cash and we took that and reinvested it. As a side note as well, Sergio Roberto did his year with us, played a few games here and there, but not really too much, and now he's made his way to Utrecht out in the Netherlands, so there's a position to fill there. But I wanted to sign some real competition for Nelson and Becao at centre-back, and we have now signed what is supposedly the best centre-back at our club currently. It's Bosnian 27-year-old Anel Ahmedhodzic, who we've signed for a pretty big fee of £32 million from Brentford, who they signed from Sheffield United in the Championship, where he is currently in real life. This man used to be the wonder kid of all wonder kids at centre-back. Hasn't really worked for him in real life, but clearly there's a quality player in there. Our scouts really rated him, and he now comes in a real towering presence in defence, who can also also play the ball very nicely. An elite level centre-back, someone that I could really class as a top 6 level centre-back at this stage in this Football Manager world. So I'm delighted with this signing. Yes, it's a lot of money. I think our most expensive transfer yet, but I feel like it's going to work out. We then replaced Sergio Roberto by signing John Joe Kenny back to Everton for £4.1 million. Everton let him go in real life. He ended up at Hertha Berlin here, played a few seasons for them, went out to the second division of Germany, where he did well enough that us and Barcelona were interested in him. We did pay his release clause of £4.1 million and managed to beat out Barcelona to the signing of him. I don't really think he's going to play that much, but he fills in behind Patterson at right back. He's an Everton player, homegrown as well, which I'm sure will help us. And look, I don't really think he's going to turn into a world-class superstar, but he is now at the club. He's valued at more than we paid for him also, so I feel like it's not the worst business ever. Lucas Bergstrom of Chelsea comes in for free as our backup goalkeeper. Nothing really to note there, just to let you know we've got him. And finally, we've added a real quality deep-lying playmaker to our team to help compete with Onana in that position. It's Japanese international Hidemasa Morita, who we've signed from Sporting Club de Portugal out in the Portuguese divisions. After 3 very good years for them, he's been playing really well, but they did let him go on a free, so we've signed him, and at 31, he's apparently valued at £50 million still, so clearly a very talented player, a good passer of the ball. He's really well built mentally with the composure, the concentration, the decision making. I'm hoping he'll add another dynamic to our midfield of that clinical passing nature. I feel like he's a great player for us to have, and if we now pick our best 11, it does shift Onana's role around a little bit, but this team is looking really dangerous now with Pickford, Patterson, Nelson, Ahmed Hozic, Mikalenko, Morita, Jobazlai, Onana, Samardzic, Calvert-Lewin and Canelo. This to me is at very least a European level Everton side, one that could compete in a Europa League, a Conference League, and that's exactly what we've got on our table for this season. So hopefully we can at least qualify again, get to the later stages of a Conference League and see how we get on. So I'm going to simulate the final year of our Everton rebuild and fingers crossed things go well. And wouldn't you believe it, we've actually managed to pick up a trophy in our final season. We finished 8th and actually would have been outside of any European place by the looks of it, but because we've won the Conference League, and yes, that is the big takeaway, this trophy here, we have won the Conference League. We have now qualified for the Europa League next season, 65 points this year, so far more than before, and Carmelo got 16 goals in the Conference League this year. He has been on fire and has still scored plenty in the league as well. He's got 3 Spain caps as well now, 3 goals, so what a signing he's turned out to be. Check him out in your save if you haven't already. Never heard of him before and he's gone on to be amazing here. But it's been a great season for us. We have finally got a trophy under our belt. The staff situation is far better than what we initially inherited. If we look at the debts and loans as well, it's gone down a little bit, not crazily though. And if we have a look at this final, did we absolutely smash minds here? Or, oh no, it's an extra time win. Coming from Morita, who we signed for free this season, managing to take minds out in the final, get that Conference League under our belt. And if it wasn't for some poor form in the Prem towards the end of the year, maybe we would have kicked on into like a 5th, 6th place position, because there wasn't that many points in it. Actually, between us and 4th place Chelsea, only 5 points. So on another day, if we'd won some of them games, maybe if we didn't have a Conference League, we could have qualified for the UCL. But you know what? It's all if, buts and maybes. At the end of the day, we've won a European trophy with Everton. I think that's rebuild complete. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, smash the like button and let me know who you want to see rebuilt next in the comments below. But most of all, have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.